Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into Genesis chapter 35.
Ooh, exciting.
It is. It's
Fast.
Jacob,
Yeah.
all kinds of things happening. This is a big turning point for him. A lot of family stuff going on, encounters with God.
Yeah, definitely a pivotal chapter.
Yeah, and we're going right to the source. So King James version of Genesis 35,
Okay.
and then layering that with Matthew Henry's commentary,
Oh, wow, from 1710.
1710. So
Yeah.
should be interesting to see his perspective on all of this. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Okay, so God tells Jacob to return to Bethel and build an altar. Now, I know Bethel is significant,
Yeah.
but can you remind me what happened there?
Well, think back to when Jacob had that dream, the ladder to heaven.
Oh, right, right.
That was at Bethel.
Yeah.
And that's also where he made a vow to God.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So it's like a very spiritually charged location.
Exactly. It's not just a random place. For him, it holds a lot of meaning.
But it's also where God appeared to him when he was running from Esau, right?
It is, yes.
So I wonder if there's going to be some tension there going back.
You're right to point that out. I mean, that unresolved conflict adds another layer to this whole return to Bethel.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so already some underlying tension there. And then Jacob tells his family to get rid of the strange gods and purify themselves.
Yeah.
What exactly are we talking about here? Like little idols?
Yeah, most likely idols or foreign deities.
Yep.
Think about the cultural context back then. Polytheism was pretty common.
Right, right.
So Jacob's making a statement here. It's like he's saying, okay, we're done with that. We're following the one true God.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just a physical return, it's also a spiritual cleansing.
You got it.
Yeah. Now, I got to ask about their trip back to Bethel. The text says that they faced no opposition from the surrounding cities. Not even a little bit.
Yep.
Like they had a divine escort or something.
Exactly. The text says the terror of God fell on their cities. It's like a clear sign that those who follow God's commands will get his protection.
Wow, so it's not just avoiding conflict, it's showcasing God's power.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But amidst all this, there's a little bit of sadness, too. Deborah, Rebecca's nurse, she dies and is buried along the way.
Oh, that's right.
It's kind of a small detail, but
Yeah.
just struck me.
Well, even though she was a servant, she's clearly respected. The text mentions her death and burial.
Right.
And remember, she was a constant presence in their lives, probably a source of support for Rebecca and Jacob both.
Yeah, that's true.
So her passing would have been a real loss for the family.
It's a good reminder that everyone's story matters. Yeah.
Definitely. Every life has its own significance.
Okay, back to Jacob. They finally reach Bethel, and boom, another encounter with God. But this time, it's not just a blessing.
It's more than that.
It's a name change. Jacob becomes Israel.
Whoa, big deal.
Why the new name tag? What's going on there?
Well, name changes in the Bible are never random. They always signify something deeper. A shift in identity, a new destiny. Think about Jacob's original name. It's connected to deception.
Oh, right, he tricked his brother
Right.
to get the birthright.
Exactly. But Israel, that means he who strives with God.
So it's not just a cosmetic change. It's a statement about who he is now.
It is. It's like his old self is being shed.
Oh,
And this
wow.
new identity is taking over. And it's not just for him, This name, it's going to become the name of a nation, his descendants.
So it's a foreshadowing of the legacy he's going to leave behind.
Exactly. And speaking of legacy, we can't forget about the next part of the story, the arrival of a new son born under some pretty difficult circumstances.
You're talking about Benjamin, right?
Yeah.
And the death of Rachel.
Yes, it's a powerful juxtaposition.
I can't even imagine the mix of emotions Jacob must have felt.
Joy and grief all at once.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even amidst these divine encounters, life can be pretty fragile.
It can, and unpredictable. And the names they choose for the child are so telling. Rachel wants to call him Benoni, son of my sorrow.
Oh.
But Jacob renames him Benjamin, son of my right hand.
So she's overwhelmed by grief while he's trying to find hope, strength.
Yeah, it shows how differently people process grief and loss.
And Jacob, even in his sorrow, he's already looking toward the future.
Always thinking ahead.
Yeah. But this chapter also doesn't shy away from, the messy side of family.
Oh, it gets complicated.
Right, like a soap opera.
We're about to dive into some serious family drama.
Reuben's transgression.
That's just the beginning.
Okay, everyone, buckle up. Things are about to get messy. We're going to explore betrayal, loss, and the enduring power of family but we'll save all that for part 2 of this deep dive.
Welcome back.
Okay, so you mentioned family drama.
Yeah, before we get to that, though,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to look at some of the symbolism going on in this chapter.
Oh, I love symbolism.
Right, like they're not just random locations. They add another layer of meaning.
Okay, so what are we missing?
Well, we've talked about Bethel, that place of divine encounter for Jacob.
Right, the ladder tree.
Exactly. But Bethel, its original name was Luz.
Okay.
And Luz means almond tree.
Wait, the trees have meaning too?
Oh, yeah, in the Bible, absolutely. In ancient cultures, the almond tree, it was associated with watchfulness and divine presence.
So it's like a symbol that God is always watching over Jacob.
Exactly, even when he's not aware of it.
I love that. Okay, what about that other place you mentioned? The,
Alan Bahuth, where Deborah is buried.
Oh, right.
It means oak of weeping.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and oaks, they were often associated with mourning and remembrance.
So even the landscape is mirroring their grief.
It's powerful stuff. But let's get back to Jacob for a second.
Okay.
His transformation from Jacob to Israel is so central to this chapter.
It really is.
I'm still thinking about that name change.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. What are your thoughts on it?
You know, I think it's like he's breaking free from his past, all the deception, the trickery.
Yeah.
Like when he tricked Esau, you know.
Right.
That's all wrapped up in the name Jacob.
Exactly. And the new name Israel, it's a new start.
He's striving with God.
Yeah, not outsmarting people.
Right.
Aligning himself with God's will.
So it's not about erasing the past.
Or like learning from it.
And embracing a new way of being.
Exactly. But let's face it, his kids aren't exactly following in his footsteps.
That's true. We've got Reuben's transgression, and it feels like there are some other sibling rivalries simmering beneath the surface. Why all this family drama, though?
Well, the Bible's not afraid to show us the flaws of its characters.
Right, they're human.
They're human, making good and bad choices and dealing with the consequences.
So it's a reflection of real life, even in a sacred text.
Yeah, and even in a family chosen by God.
Okay, so it's not just a feel-good story.
Nope, it's messy, complicated.
Like real families.
And within that messiness, we also see forgiveness.
Oh, like at the end of the chapter?
Yeah, when Esau and Jacob come together to bury their father.
Yeah, after all those years of fighting.
Sounds like Isaac's death brings them together.
Powerful image.
It shows that even deep conflict can be resolved. And speaking of Isaac's death,
Yeah.
it feels like a turning point for Jacob.
In what way?
Well, it's the end of an era. It's Jacob's time to lead.
He's not under his father's shadow anymore.
He's stepping into his own role.
The patriarch.
Exactly. So we've got this theme of generational transition. Isaac, the son of Abraham.
Right.
He passes the torch to Jacob.
Who will father the 12 tribes of Israel?
It's the continuation of God's covenant across generations.
Okay, so big picture here. We've covered divine encounters, name changes, family drama, death, reconciliation. What can we learn from Jacob's journey?
For me, it's a reminder that life's a journey full of ups and downs.
It really is.
We encounter the divine, we struggle with our identity.
Messy relationships.
We experience joy and sorrow, but through it all, we're being shaped and molded, becoming part of something bigger than ourselves.
Wow, I like that.
It's about finding meaning in the challenges, knowing that our lives are part of something larger.
That's beautiful. It's like we're all threads in this tapestry, contributing to a bigger design. And while Jacob's story is front and center, we can't forget the women in his life.
Oh, absolutely. They add a crucial dimension to this narrative.
They may not always be in the spotlight, but their experiences give us such a valuable look into the lives of women back then.
You're right. And that's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, so we've explored Jacob's journey, his encounters with God, all the family drama. But as we wrap up, I want to focus on the women in this story. Their experiences are often overlooked, but they give us such a fascinating glimpse into the lives of women back then.
You're so right. We see the complexities of motherhood, the challenges of servitude, all within this patriarchal society.
Yeah. Let's start with Deborah, Rebecca's nurse. Her death is mentioned with respect, sadness.
Yeah, it's not just a throwaway detail. It's a significant loss for the whole family.
And it says something about the importance of loyalty and long-term relationships.
It does. Deborah wasn't just a servant. She was a trusted figure, a source of stability for the family.
Probably a confidant to Rebecca, too.
Yeah, most likely.
It's like she represents all those women who work behind the scenes, nurturing, supporting,
Like unsung heroes.
whose contributions are often overlooked.
Exactly. And then, of course, we have Rachel,
Jacob's beloved wife.
Her story is just full of longing, love, and ultimately tragedy.
Her desire for children is so powerful, so raw. Give me children, or else I die.
Yeah, it really highlights the pressure on women back then to bear children. Like, their worth was tied to it.
And then her death during childbirth. That just emphasizes the dangers women faced.
Childbirth was risky back then, for sure.
It is heartbreaking. And then there are the concubines, Bilhah and Zilpah.
Hmm.
They're often seen as secondary figures, but they raise some important questions about family and social structures.
Yeah, their role as concubines, it was complex. Essentially, they were servants bearing children for their masters.
It's hard to judge these practices from a modern perspective.
It is. We have to try to understand it within their historical context.
And the text doesn't really condemn it or endorse it.
It presents it as a part of life back then.
It's just there.
And it leaves us to consider the implications, the ethical questions.
The impact on the women's lives.
Right, and that's what makes studying these ancient stories so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just about the facts, it's about grappling with these complex questions, about family, faith, the human experience.
It's realizing that even stories from thousands of years ago can still resonate with us.
They do. They speak to universal themes: love, loss, ambition, betrayal. Those things transcend time and culture.
It's like the human heart has been beating to the same rhythm for millennia.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Genesis 35, what's the one thing you want listeners to walk away with?
I think it's to look beyond the surface. Dig deeper into the stories, the characters, the context. Ask questions. Challenge your assumptions. Be open to the uncomfortable truths.
Don't be afraid to wrestle with it all.
That's how these ancient texts come alive. That's how we find their relevance for today.
Yeah. It's been quite a journey exploring this chapter.
It has. From divine encounters to family drama, name changes to the poignant stories of the women.
Genesis 5 really offers a window into the human heart.
It does. And that's what makes it so timeless.
Well, that brings our deep dive to a close. But we hope the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep discovering those hidden depths within these ancient stories. Until next time, keep diving deep.